We, the members of parliament from Northeastern Province of Kenya, concerned with the unfortunate near political development in the Horn of Africa region, in the signing of a memorandum of cooperation and partnership between a region in Somalia and the state of Ethiopia, the federal government of Ethiopia, wherein this region called Somaliland has agreed to lease a stretch of land of 20 kilometers of the seaport, Red Sea port, to give access to Ethiopian Navy and Ethiopian shipping for 50 years to come. Acknowledging the ethnic and cultural ties between the people of the Northeastern Province, Kenya, and Somalia, and Ethiopia also, as well as the good relations between the brotherly countries of Kenya, Somalia, and Ethiopia, and forestalling the possibility of historical spillover of chaos, conflict, and insecurity to our region, and in the spirit of good neighborliness, acknowledge in the spirit of good neighborliness from the outset, we unequivocally state that the Ethiopian government's action to enter into an agreement with a region in a country, with a region of a sovereign state, and effectively establish direct international relations with that region is in breach of the territorial integrity and abuse of the political independence of the state of Somalia. And when this happens to Somalia, it will happen to Kenya, it will happen to Sudan, it will happen to all the countries in the region if we don't stop it now. Ethiopia is signatory to the United Nations Charter, the African Union Constitutive Act, Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, and several other international treaties that regulate the conduct and relations between nations. As such, we find it bizarre that a country like Ethiopia should act with that level of unconscientiousness. Now, Article 1 sub-Article 4 of the United Nations Charter provides that all member states shall refrain in their international relations from the threat of use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any other state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations. Article 2 sub-Article 1 of the Charter states that organization is based on the principle of sovereign equality. United Nations organization is based on the principle of sovereign equality of all its members. Whether it is a small state like Monaco, or a small state like Bahamas, or whether it is a big state with 1 billion and over population like China, or with a country that has got 11 time zones like Russia, all those countries in the eyes of the international rules based order are sovereign states, and none of them should interfere in the internal affairs of another one. In addition, Article 2 sub-Article 2 it states that all members, in order to ensure that all of them enjoy the rights and benefits resulting from membership, shall fulfill in good faith the obligations assumed by them in accordance with the present charter. One of the key objects of establishing the African Union is to defend the sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence, and independence of its member states as provided for under Article 3 sub-Article B of the African Union Constitutive Act. Further, Article 5 A states that provides that the Union shall function in accordance with the following principles of sovereign equality, and interdependence among member states of the Union, and B, respect of borders existing on achievements of when they join the AU. Therefore, clearly, Ethiopia has no diplomatic wiggle room as regards the lease of land or access to seaport within Somali territory without doing it with the federal government of Somalia, and with purporting to do it with a region in Somalia. That itself is illegal, unconstitutional, and in international law, that itself is a travesty of the rules-based order of the international community. It is our considered view that Ethiopia is well aware of the jurisdictional confines, the historical animosity between the nations of Ethiopia and Somalia. These are countries that went to war 3 times in history. And it's going to be very easy for them to start another 4th war again. This is a country where a section of the Ethiopian region itself has been fighting to secede from Ethiopia and join with Somalia. And it's a matter of popularity, however, having realized the major steps taken by the Somali government and its people towards a more social, political and social cohesion Ethiopia is now laying the foundation for sowing seeds of discord and animosity amongst the people of the region. If this were to happen, if any country can decide to recognize any other country, tomorrow somebody will come and say that the 10-mile strip of Kenya is not part of Kenya, Pwani is Kenya. And another rogue, leader in any other country in the world, out of mischief, can say, I've recognized that country. We have a problem there. We have a problem also, we will have a problem with our, border with Uganda. We might have a problem with our border with Sudan, because the Ateker, the Ateker cluster, for the information of Kenyans, the Turkanas have the majority of their kins on the other side of Sudan. But these boundaries, the way they were left at the inception of OAU, which was the precursor to AU, that's how they should be left, all of them. We remind the Ethiopian government not to take for granted the lull from the spate of conflict within and between the Horn of African nations. Somalia has been having its own internal problems. But that is not an opportune moment for them now to decide and say that we're going to have a piece of the cake. They will not have it. We all know that. And there will be a conflict in that place. We've already come out of a conflict with the Tigray region. There's already a brewing, fully fledged conflict with the Amara region. We have a problem, an internal problem within the Oromo region. The only region right now in Ethiopia that is peaceful is the Somali region of Ethiopia. And if this were to happen, that will also go up in flames. So we, proud of our own sovereign entity as Kenyans, a multi-ethnic, multi-denominational society in here, we want everybody else to live within that spirit. The moment you open up this Pandora box, it becomes what you call a dominoes game. It will start here and start another way. Many Kenyans might be wondering right now, why are we coming out into the open to get involved in a matter that's between two different countries? That is a domino effect. We are protecting our own interest. We are protecting our sovereignty. We are protecting our integrity, territorial integrity as a state in this country. And the only way you can do that is to stop it if you see it, some kind of a mischief happening in the neighboring countries. And we don't want to accept that. We remind the Ethiopian government not to take for granted that lull. It baffles that being the nation that suffered the most recent war, which claimed over 1 million lives, and thus expected to prudently target its human and financial resources towards nation building and healing the fresh ones occasioned by Tigray and Amara regions. It is instead gearing up to open new war fronts with another country, in another neighborhood. We remind our Ethiopian brothers of the preamble of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, which states that the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations concerning the sovereign equality of states, the maintenance of international peace and security, and the promotion of friendly relations between countries in the region. Finally, we call on the African Union, the IGAD, and the United Nations to urgently institute measures for cessation of any possible hostilities in the area, because people are gearing up for a conflict. I can tell you this for sure, for free. There's no way the Somali nation itself and the Somali people are going to sit back and watch a portion of their land being taken by the Ethiopians. No, they'll take up arms. And you never know when this conflict goes wild. It could spill over to everywhere. We're already hosting today, as we're talking right now, in excess of 700,000 Somali refugees in Kenya. If you're going to have another conflict in there, and you have a country which is about 25 million, 30 million, and the neighboring Ethiopia, which is 100 plus million, then we have a problem, even as a country in Kenya, of the spillover of that conflict in terms of refugees and displaced people. So we are calling on the Ethiopian government, we are calling on IGAD, we are calling on the United Nations to urgently institute measures to make sure that there is no conflict in that area. And Ethiopia, or the Republic of Ethiopia, the government of Ethiopia, is brought back to its own senses to respect all these charters and all these international treaties and conventions. Thank you.